Alright, coming in at number 10, we have the deep space radio bursts. Mystery fast radio bursts were discovered in 2007. These bursts flash for a micro instant but emit more energy than the sun does in 10,000 years. The high energy surges of long waves have been detected 18 times over the past 10 years, and one burst in 2012 recorded in Puerto Rico occurred numerous times in the same pattern. Okay, this is what it sounded like. After fierce debates and a lot of head scratching, the source of the sound was traced to a microgalaxy 3 billion light years away from Earth. A lot of theorists have concluded that the sound is a space signal from another world or a parallel universe looking to get in touch. Coming in at number 9, we have the man from Taurid. Were we sent a man from another parallel universe, or did he arrive via some kind of portal or vortex? Our story here stems back to 1954 when a man was detained at the Japanese border after arriving on a plane from Europe to Haneda Airport. The man said he was on his third business trip to Japan that year, and he had a wallet filled with a mixture of currencies, seeming to verify his business traveller status. When he presented his passport, officials were absolutely baffled, asking where he was from. Now, the man, who primarily spoke French, said, "Taurid. Where is this mystery place?" He showed his passport again and the stamps that supported his travels. The only thing is, nobody had ever heard of Taurid. The company he was travelling to said that they'd never heard of him, and he was carrying a checkbook to a non-existent bank. When he was asked to point out Taurid on the map, he pointed to where Andorra is today and seemed confused and offended to be told that it's not a real country. He was detained in a hotel overnight while Japanese authorities decided what to do with him, but by morning, he disappeared. Did he accidentally walk through a portal to another universe? Maybe. Coming in at number 8, we have the Bernstein-Bears phenomena. Also called the Mandela effect, the Bernstein-Bears phenomena claims to prove the existence of parallel universes with subtle differences. People vehemently claim that the Bernstein-Bears were spelled with an E and not an A, and honestly, I for one absolutely thought that the Looney Tunes were the Looney Tunes until I watched a video on the phenomena last year, and now I'm straight up convinced that I'm living in the wrong universe, as it is clearly Looney Tunes. They're cartoons. This new world doesn't make any sense. Some people out there are also adamant that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the late 1980s, which is more than just a slightly altered timeline. It's not just spellings here, this is a pretty major parallel universe event. Coming in at number 7, we have deja vu. Deja vu, a glitch in the Matrix, or a signal from a parallel universe. While both seem as likely as one another, it is thought by some that the weird moments where we feel like we've been or experienced something before are actually signals that something key is happening in our parallel lives. Not only do some people believe parallel universes exist side by side, some people think they interact with one another in some way. According to Dr. Michio Kaku, an American futurist, deja vu occurs as a result of a person's ability to flip between universes. Others believe it is because we're vibrating in unison with the frequency of another universe that's parallel with our very own. Oh, I've gone cross-eyed. Coming in at number 6, we have the Lost Beatles album. A parallel universe may have given our world a gift in the form of a Lost Beatles album, Everyday Chemistry. The story goes that in 2009, a man called James Richards found himself accidentally in a parallel universe, as you do. Luckily, there was also a person from another parallel universe there, a man named Jonas. Now, Jonas was on a trans-dimensional tourism trip from the other Earth, and he told Richards that in his world, amongst other things, John Lennon was still alive and the Beatles never broke up. Richards then stole a copy of a later album never released by the band and returned with it to our Earth. What did he do with one of the most sought after pieces of music from a non-history that almost but never happened here? He uploaded it to the internet. Eagle-eared fans were absolutely having none of it though. They said the album is comprised of clever mashups from all of the Beatles' solo careers. Richards later said that even though in an alternate universe the Beatles hadn't broke up, that didn't mean their future music ideas disappeared. I'm not so sure about this one, but I would love to hear what Paul McCartney has to say about it. Paul, tell us, is it real? I guess you're living in another universe so you don't know, but I don't know. I feel like you'd be able to answer. Coming in at number 5, we have dreams. Could our dreams be signals from a parallel universe? Some say maybe. In a number of First Nations cultures in North and Central America, people believe that dreams allow us to walk planes in other dimensions. Their reasoning is that dreams take place in color and can include all of their senses. They think that when you're in a dream, you are in another world, perhaps a world you already exist in. If you're doing something strange in your dream, maybe it's a sign that actually you live a far stranger life somewhere else. Coming in at number 4, we have the bruise. Anyone else here bruised like a peach? Just me? Me? And the universe. In 2010, along with a team of researchers, Stephen Feeney of the University College in London announced that he had discovered patterns in the radiation background left over from the Big Bang. Now this seemed to suggest that our universe bumped into not 1, not 2, but 4 other universes and was left bruised. Okay, what is the plural of universes? Universi? Universi? Universi. Also, from the bruising, further researchers in California think that it is clear that this leads to some kind of like bubble universe theory, which maybe I can get on board with. Maybe Men in Black got it right when they imagined us all as marbles in a big bag. Coming into number 3, we have the cold spot. In 2004, astronomers found something that baffled them, an unusually cold area of space. The area is 1.8 billion light years across and much colder than its surroundings. The area also contained 10,000 less galaxies than in other areas of a similar size studied in space. A researcher from Durham University in the UK believed that the spot could be evidence of a multiverse. They said it seemed as if a parallel universe smashed into ours, affecting it like a car pile-up on the motorway would, only they're calling it a cosmic shunt. They believe the impact was so vast it pushed energy out from a big region of space, therefore creating the cold spot. It's hard to get your head around, but that is what they think. Coming in at number 2, we have City in the Sky. In October 2015, Chinese TV went wild when thousands of residents in 2 areas of the country reported seeing a huge floating city in the clouds. Puzzled onlookers saw skyscrapers in the clouds and believed that they were seeing a ghost city or the colliding of our reality with a parallel universe. The phenomenon occurred in both Guangdong and Jiangxi, with some believing it was the beginning of an alien invasion. The images were caught on camera for the world to see and promptly went viral across the rest of the globe. So what on Earth or above Earth is going on? Well, even though it looks like a city in the clouds to you and me, apparently it is an optical illusion called Fata Morgana, which is a natural mirage. So that is what a lot of scientists are saying anyway, but other people are convinced it's a sign of a parallel universe or even a window to another world. Finally, coming into number 1, we have black holes. The theory of loop quantum gravity suggests that there is no point of singularity in a black hole, rather they're simply folds in the universe. Everything we know about quantum physics tells us that information is never lost, that energy can't be created or destroyed, so perhaps black holes don't suck and destroy, maybe they suck and create. A lot of scientists are dabbling with the idea that black holes are indeed folds or portals to an older part of the universe. Professor Stephen Hawking gave a lecture in 2015 wherein he discussed how it may be possible to come out of the other side of a black hole. He said the hole would need to be large, and if it was rotating, it might have a passage to another universe, but you couldn't come back to our universe. Anyone want to take that one-way trip? I don't know if I do. So guys, are black holes portals to another universe?
Alright, starting at number 10, unsanctioned connection. Reddit user Stars and Severance shared an experience they had when they were younger. When they were 12, they got their first phone for Christmas. Then, one night over the holidays, they had a crazy realistic dream. In the dream, they went to a girl's house making line faces out of construction paper. And the girl in this very vivid dream had long red hair and looked nothing like anyone they knew. Then, the next day after this dream, they got a text from an unknown number. It said something along the lines of, "You'll never guess who I am." and then after some back and forth guessing, thinking it's one of their friends, the number sends a picture of a lion plate, just like in the dream. Then the next photo is a selfie, and the person texting had long red hair. Then through other texting and a one-sided game of 20 questions, it turns out this girl with the red hair knows all about the person receiving the text messages. So then they text for about 3 days before the girl texting them said, "Lose my number, forget me." She stated, "They are mad because I reached out to you." And who's they? Well, the user who shared this story didn't question the arguments of the girl and deleted the number in the texts, never hearing from the girl again. But this leads me to think, from a dream to reality, this girl appeared. One explanation is a parallel universe. Think about it. Dreams can sure be wild and weird, but what about those times it feels just like real life? Can that be another universe trying to make a connection without freaking us out? Maybe. Alright, let's look at another text. Next, at number 9, disappearing texts. Random user on Reddit shared this experience they had. Their girlfriend was working at a restaurant that night and sent them a text that read, "Hey, I'm picking you up food when I'm done, so don't eat anything, love you." And this message appeared during an emergency broadcast alert and then disappeared right after the alert. This seemed odd, so the person restarted their phone and went to go pick up their girlfriend from the restaurant. When they picked her up, she said they should go somewhere to eat, which threw them off because didn't she just say she was grabbing them food? But she said her phone was off the whole time she was at work. Never sent a text. The author of the story said they saw her turn on her phone as if it was off the whole time, and there was no evidence of a text sent. But the text they received came from the girlfriend's number. So their explanation? It must have been sent from an alternate universe. A parallel one where their girlfriend was going to get them food, and this was just a glitch in the matrix that disappeared once it slipped out. And texts aren't the only thing to slip through the matrix. Next, at number 8, an unexplainable photo. So Reddit user Jake Venom had a scare 7 years ago when he found a photo on his phone he couldn't explain. He was making some iced tea with a new tea maker and sent a photo to his buddy's group chat when the previous photo in his phone caught his eye. The previous photo was supposed to be the screenshot from Twitter he sent to a friend last night, but it wasn't. It was a blurry photo of what he recognized as the kitchen of his childhood house. But he hadn't been to that house. He sent the Twitter screenshot before he went to bed, and then he sent the tea maker photo when he was making tea in the morning. So this obviously freaked him out. He said he kept having a weird feeling when he was looking at the photo and there was no reasonable explanation for it, so he ended up deleting it to stop feeling that uneasy feeling. But another Jake Venom in another timeline still lives in that house and took a photo in his kitchen that never showed up on his phone, I'm thinking. It could be. These alternate parallel universes must be like so messed. And so these have been digital so far, but what about a person who says they are from a place that no one knows exists, or doesn't exist? At number 7, from Laxaria. Back in 1851, a man who called himself Jofar Voren, or Joseph Voren, was found as he was wandering a German village. Joseph was speaking in broken German, but also spoke and wrote in unknown languages that he called Laxarian and Abramian. He said he was in Europe to find his long-lost brother, but he suffered in a shipwreck, as he came from Laxaria, which is in an area of Sakria. Now, if that doesn't ring a bell in your head, no, it didn't ring any bells for any of the officials trying to help this man out. He couldn't find where he was from. Any maps or globes didn't match what he knew. He called the 5 great continents of Earth Sakria, Alfar, Astar, Ulslar, and Yurplar, which doesn't match any of ours. People think he somehow fell into our universe from one much different from our own and much further away from where he anticipated to find his brother, but what do you think? But next, more of something different. At number 6, experiencing different days. This one comes from Stewie2Griffin34 on Reddit, who was watching another one of our parallel universe videos a couple months ago. It got them thinking of a weird day they themselves had. Their friend Kate, on break from her way to detention, said that their friend Nick wasn't in that day. But when they both got home, they got texts from both Nick and Kate saying that no, Nick was in school and detention and everything that day. And then Kate said that she hadn't told them that Nick wasn't in because she never took a break outside detention. So then they were all confused. And then on top of that, Nick said that he saw them go into the library that day and was at school, saying the user who posted this was just acting distant. Then the next day, the user trying to figure out what was happening, tried to get other opinions, and Nick's friends said, no, Nick wasn't in the day before. So was this a prank or different people experiencing different days? And I swear I remember when people tell me something specific and then they say, no, that never happened, and I get confused, so what is the truth? On to number 5, missing graveyard. Reddit user City Loves Chew says her mom was the one to have the trippy experience in this one. The mom in question was traveling with a friend in Old Lyme, Connecticut to a beach they often went to, Hawk's Nest Beach. They had free time one day and explored the area and ended up finding a cool cemetery called the Lord's Cemetery with a big red gate. They checked it out, took some cool pictures, and then left. No biggie. But the next day, they couldn't find the same spot again. They asked people in town, police officers, everybody, and no one had heard of it. They tried to find it in the years following, but couldn't find it, even with the help of Google Maps. Plus, the photos they took were gone. No explanation, which, when you think about it, is a grave experience from a parallel universe. And okay, that was a bad pun, we'll move on to the next one. Sorry. Next is number 4, from Denny's to Penny's. So, what if, suddenly, something so basic and normal to you was changed without question, and everyone then accepted it as the norm? Well, this happened to Reddit user is_emo. Back when they were a kid, they went to Denny's pretty often. So they were kinda shaken when one day, when they were young, their dad shook them awake and said, hey, we're heading to Penny's. And so they were all like, you mean Denny's, right? And their dad was like, no, Penny's. So they kind of accepted this, maybe it's a joke, and they roll up, but the yellow sign that is supposed to say Denny's is changed to Penny's. So now this kid is freaking out, but trying to keep cool, hide it, and yeah, you might be thinking this was just a one-day thing, maybe it was just shaken up, but no. They passed by this sign every day to school for a month, and all their friends at school kept saying it had always been Penny's anytime this person asked. But then, a month later, boom, Denny's again. So the kid asks his dad if it's changed, and their dad looks confused and asks, what do you mean? And so the kid plays it cool, but it shook them up for a while. Shook them up until they heard about possible parallel universes, and then it made total sense to them. What do you think Denny's is called in other universes? That's what I want to know. But anyways, the realization that there might be other universes doesn't come to everybody. At number 3, Guardian Angle. Now, a 28-year-old in Washington, D.C. named Lindsay got a scare from an unknown number. Whoever it was had bad spelling and used shortened text speak, sending sayings such as, Lindsay, I see you, with Lindsay misspelled and the words all in letter form. But this wasn't what scared her though, even though there was one text that said, I'm your guardian angle. What scared her is when she started getting texts about what she was doing currently, things that could only be described if someone was watching her, talking about her watching TV and saying they were standing right next to Lindsay. Lindsay had enough of this, it was freaking her out, and she called the number that she got from the landline, but the line said the number wasn't in service. Then the number texted her saying, why did you have to do that? And you know what you did. And so this was enough for Lindsay to get really shaken, so she got the police to help her investigate, but nothing came out of it. Now what I think is this was a trickster from a parallel universe playing a prank on her. But what do you think it could be? Something a little more paranormal? But moving on to number 2, unsent text. Sometimes the story doesn't come from the person who gets the wild text, but the person who gets the reaction to it. Reddit user Trodat5204 had her sister call her out of the blue over text she allegedly sent her. Her sister said she sent a text saying, hey, insert some unusual pet names she sometimes calls her sister, I'm in this city now, I'm scared but it's okay and it's safe here. Your sister. So the person who posted this obviously censored their information, so that's why it reads kind of weird and I keep doing brackets. But anyways, her sister is calling her to demand to know why she's in a different city, why she got this text from a different number, and wants to know what's going on. So the person who got called clarifies the situation for her sister, and they call this other number together. But it just keeps on ringing. They couldn't reach what they thought to be a reasonable explanation, so the Reddit post says it could be maybe 3 things. 1, a coincidence. 2, a joke. Or 3, a parallel universe. Someone in another universe was scared and lost, but the text got sent to the wrong sister in the wrong universe. But on to number 1, alternate universe FaceTime. Reddit user Anonymous5000 left a story of what they described as a glitch in the Matrix story on the comments of another post. What they experienced they could only describe as a FaceTime call from another universe. This user is the father of a 6-year-old daughter, and they keep in touch over FaceTime when she stays at her mom's house. While he's talking to her daughter, having a long conversation over FaceTime, when she starts asking if her mommy and daddy are going to be together forever. He then gets confused because he's been separated from her mom for 3 years at that point. But she goes on to explain that no, they're together, and that when he comes home they all watch TV together. So she keeps talking until the reception cuts it off, and he calls back, kind of confused, and then his daughter is in different clothes. He laughs it off and asked if she hung up to change, and then this guy said his daughter said, "I never hung up. You just called me, Dad." So he says, "No, we were just talking on the phone," but she says, "No, they weren't." So then, as I would too, this guy freaked out. This Reddit user says the other call must have been from a parallel universe where the two parents were still together, and the guy gets the chills thinking about how it could have happened. Imagine the alternate universe daughter who's thinking her dad is rambling on about not being with her mom. Kinda wild.
Starting off this list at number 10. This story goes that a couple were at home just doing some household chores when something super strange happened to them. The husband went to open the front door to toss a dirty rug out of the house, and it was completely pitch black outside. The weird part is that it was 2 p.m. and from inside the house it looked like a regular sunny afternoon with light coming in from the windows. They said that suddenly outside the front door where it was dark, it's like the sun was a light bulb and it went on, then off again, and then on. They described it like the flickering a light bulb does right before it's burnt out. The wife asked the husband if he had seen that, and he replied, "Yes, what just happened?" They also said that there weren't any clouds out either, so it couldn't have been a cloud blocking the sky. Were they transported to some alternate reality for a second? I honestly have no explanation for what the pair witnessed. Moving on to number 9. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. This story comes from a Reddit user called RunnerGirl2001. RunnerGirl was trying to get over an ex when their friend Maggie texted asking if they would be open to going on a date with a mutual friend named Audrey. RunnerGirl accepted and tried to talk with Audrey, but didn't really feel a strong connection and felt like maybe they just weren't meant to be. Shortly after this, more friends began texting RunnerGirl about Audrey, even though they didn't really want to keep seeing her. Later that day, RunnerGirl ended up zoning out in light traffic and was close to getting in a car accident. They were halfway into the intersection when they realized that they had run a red light, and at the moment they realized they saw a car swerve to not hit them. RunnerGirl pulled over after this to process what just happened, and after this specific moment, RunnerGirl's friends never mentioned Audrey again. A few months later, Audrey began dating someone else in the friend group named Jake, so RunnerGirl assumed that this was why they stopped bringing up Audrey. A few months later, RunnerGirl ended up bringing up Audrey to Maggie and brings up how Maggie had tried to set them up. Maggie was super confused for saying, "No, we were trying to set Audrey up with Jake." When RunnerGirl went back to their text messages, they couldn't find any that mentioned Audrey at all. In the near-miss car accident, did RunnerGirl somehow end up jumping into another dimension? Moving on to number 8. One day a person, let's call them Taylor, was watching TV with their mom and brother while their sister and dad went out to run some errands. While they were watching TV, an ad for a show comes on the screen, and it was one of those veterinary shows. Taylor's brother immediately recognized the vet on screen as his old track and field coach. The brother knew that he was a vet, but didn't know that he was now on a TV show. Taylor had never met the coach before, but obviously thought this story was cool. Later, when Taylor's dad and sister returned home, Taylor went to tell their sister about the TV show mishap. Taylor's sister had also never met this track coach, and Taylor begins to tell the story and asks if she remembers the old coach who had a vet clinic. Taylor's sister replies, "The funny one with the mustache?" Taylor is confused since she's never met him, so asks how she would know he had a funny mustache. Taylor's sister replies and says that Taylor told her about the coach earlier that morning. This of course totally freaked Taylor out because they didn't know what the coach looked like that morning, and also they definitely do not remember having this conversation because why would anyone bring up their brother's old track coach without a reason? I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but something weird is definitely going on. Moving on to number 7. This story comes from a person who often commutes to a town around 3 hours away from the one that they live in. One day they were doing the 3-hour drive with their mom, and they got to this part that takes most of the drive, and it's an area with a lot of mountains and cliffs. They are in the passenger seat with their mom driving, and as they look out the side of the window over one of the cliffs, they see a small community that they had never seen before. This community looked nice and consisted of mostly bungalows, which is apparently not normal for the area. Both them and their mom were super confused as to how they had never seen this community before, but it gets even weirder. They never saw the community again. It just disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Did they accidentally drive into another dimension one day? Moving on to number 6. So one day, this person was driving to work on the same route that they took every single day. They worked the whole day through and got into their car to head back home on that same path. As they were driving, they started feeling super anxious and like on the verge of a panic attack. They kept driving, and then suddenly they see this huge power plant all lit up. They're super confused because they drive this road every single day. How could they possibly miss this glaringly obvious thing? Then their boyfriend calls and asks them to pick up McDonald's on the way home. No problem, they go to the drive-thru. When they get to the window, they see an employee that they've never seen before, even though they're at the same McDonald's almost every single day because you've got to get those chicken nuggets. And this new employee is the only one there and says that they've been working there for around 2 months. They take the food and head home, and when they get there, they begin to tell the boyfriend about this strange power plant that they just saw. The boyfriend explains that the power plant has always been there, so he doesn't know what they're talking about. Now every day they drive past this power plant with no idea how it got there or how they had missed it, but they've also noticed a few other small differences in their life. Their dog doesn't know tricks it used to know, and their boyfriend pronounces some words differently than before. Maybe on their drive home they slipped into a new dimension. Moving on to number 5. This story starts when a person received a camera as an early birthday gift, but there was no SD card in the camera. When they got home, they threw an older SD card into the camera and began to see old pictures and videos that they had totally forgotten about. As they were scrolling through the pictures, they realized that one was a video of their mom with one of their old dogs who had passed away. This was obviously such a treat to see this video that they forgot even existed, and to be able to see their dog once again. They switched to another SD card to see if there were any more hidden gems that they had forgotten about, but unfortunately the other SD card didn't really contain much. When they switched back to the original SD card, they saw the thumbnail for the video with the dog. They selected it, but when it went to load, the screen just suddenly looked like it was cracked all over. They backed out of the thumbnail, and then the entire video just completely disappeared, as well as the fact that now the brand new camera screen was just all messed up. While looking through SD cards, did the camera somehow transport them into an alternate reality where that video was taken? I don't know. This whole situation is super weird. Moving on to number 4. This story comes from a person who works at a retirement home, so they have to get a weekly COVID test. The test takes place in a building farthest from the building that they actually work in, so they drove their car over to the test, parked their car on the lot, but left it running since the test was routine and super quick and easy. At the test, they saw a friend of theirs and offered them a ride back to the building that they worked in. The pair headed out to the lot and realized that their car was still running, but the doors were locked. They searched their pockets to make sure that they didn't have a key, but since the car was still running, this obviously wasn't possible, and there was no spare key for the car, so they ended up calling a locksmith to come and help them out. The pair waited inside the testing building until the locksmith arrived. When he got there, they went out to the car and realized it wasn't running anymore. They thought maybe it had run out of gas, or maybe the battery had died, but they felt like it hadn't been that long. The locksmith opened the car door, and when they reached in for the keys, they realized that they weren't in the ignition. This shocked them both because the car was definitely on earlier when they realized that they were locked out. They went to walk back into the testing center to look in there, and after taking a couple steps, they heard the keys jingle in their pocket. The same pockets that they had checked before. Where did these keys come from? Because they definitely weren't in there before, and now they have to pay a locksmith $200 for no reason. Coming in at number 3, this one is another dog story and starts off with a woman who we'll call Anna having her bi-weekly phone call with her mom just to catch up and see what's going on. Anna's mom unfortunately had to inform her that Anna's sister's dog named Honey had passed away. Anna was obviously super upset at this loss and called her sister to check in after hearing the news. Anna had tons of questions about where they were planning to bury the dog, as well as how her sister's son was doing with the loss. Anna told her boyfriend how upset she was about the loss of the dog, as they had a really strong bond. Flash forward a couple months and Anna is heading home for Thanksgiving. Her sister was heading out of town to spend the holiday with her in-laws, so she left her pets at the parents' house so that they could be watched over. As Anna walks into her parents' home, she sees Honey, healthy as can be, just sitting in the living room. Anna was of course overjoyed, but asked her mom why she had told her that Honey died. Anna's mom was super confused and said that that conversation never happened. After leaving her parents' house, Anna asked her boyfriend about it, and he said he was super glad that she brought it up because he also remembered the conversation. Did they somehow enter a world where Honey was still alive? While this would be such an amazing surprise, it would also be unbelievably creepy. In our number 2 spot today, this story comes from a guy who loves cars but had a weird moment about 15 years ago that he just couldn't get off of his mind. When he was in his early 20s, he loved to speed in cars and just wanted to go fast. His friend had a car that he really wanted to drive, and one day it just turned out to be his lucky day and his friend finally gave in. He hopped in the driver's seat with his friend who owned the car in the passenger seat and another buddy in the back, and off they went. They went to an empty freeway around 3 a.m. and put the pedal to the metal. Once they hit around 135 miles per hour, they began to see a bunch of semi-trucks. There were basically 3 driving side by side, taking up all 3 of the lanes, and certainly not going as fast as our speed demon friend. He thought to himself that there was an on-ramp coming up and he would just use that as some extra room to pass, but unfortunately, as he approached the on-ramp, another semi was entering the freeway and occupying that 4th lane. With all 4 semis lined up, he was approaching too fast with no time to brake, so he closed his eyes and prepared for the worst. But then, nothing happened. He opened his eyes and the other guys in the car were just as confused as he was. Somehow they were now in front of all of the semis, but there was literally no room for them to have passed by. This was the end of his speeding career, as he was super spooked as to what possibly happened. Was this a real world glitch, or did he somehow enter a reality where he wasn't in an extremely dangerous and potentially fatal situation? And coming in at number 1. One day a guy gets a call from his neighbors asking him if he can help them move a mattress upstairs. They had a really great relationship with the neighbors, so he of course was willing to help. When he got there, they got the mattress all moved, and then the neighbors asked if he wouldn't mind helping with an armoire as well. No problem, he thought, as he began to help them move that one up the stairs as well. This is when things went awry. There were 11 stairs at the front, he was on the lower end carrying the armoire about 6 steps up, and his friend at the top lost a handle, and the whole thing came crashing down on him since he was at the bottom. He of course loses his balance and falls backwards towards the pavement, and this man actually remembers dying from this fall. The next thing he remembers though is waking up in his dining room with his phone ringing and his wife asking him if he's going to answer the phone. He's obviously super freaked out because he literally just died 2 seconds ago, but now he's here. When he answers the phone, it's his neighbor asking if he can help move a mattress up the stairs. He surprisingly goes over again to help, and when he gets there, he says that he can help with the mattress, but not with the armoire. His neighbor is shocked because he doesn't know how he would have possibly known about this. Did this guy have some sort of premonition, or did his death in one reality bring him into a different reality? Who knows, but I really hope he is taking advantage of his second chance at life. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. I've been your host, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time.